okay, I'm going to give this a try. I have tried everything else, and I have spent so much money on so many different doctors and programs and everything you could possibly imagine, that I'm like, but this, it just felt more authentic. And I thought, well, there's, I'm either going to get better or I'm not. So there's nothing to lose here, and potentially an awful lot to gain. But it was really the honesty and the authenticity and the poignancy of your story. I have two family members who were on long-term medications, not this medication, but for completely other things. And it's destroyed them. Like, the long-term side effects of some medications are unknown at the time when people start taking them, and they continue to take them, and then it does things to your body that can't be planned for. And so I just didn't want that to happen. I just, I thought and I just kept thinking, there has got to be a way for me to do this naturally. There has got to be a way for me to find a solution with food and how I live and how I eat, so that I can get off this medication. It just, made me nervous. Just that ability to really believe that if I modify the way I consume food, that I will actually be better. Because the doctors never said that. My, gastroenterologist, I said, what do I need to do with my diet? And the response was nothing. That diet doesn't make any difference. And I'm like, that can't be true. It just can't be true. I feel good. I have lots of energy. I work out a lot. I cycle a lot, and I can go out and do those things again. And I have no problem going out to dinner with friends and finding good, clean food to eat. And I don't have a sense of urgency anymore. I used to be always very critically aware of where the toilets were. Don't really worry about that quite so much. I can travel again. I'm traveling a lot. But yeah, I feel good. I really think that the way the food is combined, and the timing of when you eat and how you eat and what you share with us, and the guidance provided, if you do that, it's like it gave my body the opportunity just to settle. Like, it settled down, and I could feel the changes happening little bit by little bit by little bit. And that's an amazing feeling and just the relief of not living with this urgency and this pain and discomfort, and being woken up multiple times at nighttime to go to the bathroom. To be able to give your body the chance to heal itself by eating broccoli, I'm in. Broccoli is one of my favorite things. I can't eat enough broccoli. Forced myself to be super, super clean on the diet during that part, because I felt terrible. Like, that was the strangest. And again, those are things that I've not felt before. But it was like, this is the meds coming out of my body. I was like, there was no other explanation for it. I just don't have the craving anymore. It's completely gone. Like, tonight for dinner, I had some sweet potatoes, and I'm eating these sweet potatoes, and I'm like, oh, taste like candy. They're just plain roasted sweet potatoes with nothing on them. And it's like, okay, my tongue has changed. My taste buds have changed. Everything has changed. So yeah, I don't crave chocolate anymore. I just, and I'll walk past the bars I used to buy in the store, and I'll be like, oh, look, it's right there. It's like, yeah, I don't want it. That ability to do this for you, and to be so empowered that it lies in your hands, that ability to help your body heal. You don't need the doctors, and you don't need the medications and all that kind of stuff. I mean, yes, there are times where you might, like I did, to get over the worst of it, to just to kickstart something. But long term, no, I'd prefer to never see my gastroenterologist again in my life. Not that there's anything wrong with the person, but just, I don't really want to go down that road again if I don't have to.
Hey guys, welcome to another video. It is testimonial time again, and I'm really excited to share this testimonial with you guys, share this healing story with you guys, because Carol has done an amazing job on healing herself, and it's just great to see that another person has been able to do this on a plant-based diet and is now thriving. So I guess what we'll do to start, Carol, is just, I guess, introduce yourself. And maybe talk a little bit about your diagnosis. So if you want to go back a little bit and then talk about what you're going through now and how your life is so easy now. And then I guess we'll break down the healing journey that you've been through for the last 6 months and talk about some of the challenges you may have faced and some of the beautiful things that you've faced as well during this time. So I guess, yeah, I'll just hand it over to you and yeah, just do a little bit of an introduction, talk about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, so let's go way back in time, originally diagnosed with ulcerative colitis when I was 23. But there's nothing to be done. I was put on some steroids and all that kind of stuff back then. And then everything just sort of seemed to settle down into sort of a mm, semi-normal rhythm for me and life. I've never been able to eat dairy products, so my gut has always been very sensitive to that. But about 6 years ago, I was working late one night. I went down to the food court, got some food because I needed some dinner, and got food poisoning. Super sick, super sick. And
Mm.
it just never went away. And it triggered the colitis, I guess, but couldn't really get any help for it. Doctors weren't really listening. My doctor wasn't listening. Begged, cried, did everything I could possibly do to even have a colonoscopy, which is horrendous, but wanted some sort of diagnosis so I could get some help. Did have a colonoscopy, came back and said that I had microscopic ulcerative colitis, but there was nothing to be done. And I asked the doctor about biologics and all those sorts of things. And the response was no, it's not going to help you, so we're not going to give them to you. And literally sent me home. And still, my gut was a complete disaster. My regular doctor told me to go home and eat meat and drink psyllium powder, and I should be fine, and that I should avoid vegetables and carbohydrates. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound right either. Um, so I stayed horrendously ill for many, many years, and then begged again to have another colonoscopy. So in August of 2022, had a colonoscopy again, came back microscopic ulcerative colitis and chronic, like so in a chronic condition at the cellular level. And the doctor said, not really sure what to do at this point in time, was still really sick, but he called me a month or two after the colonoscopy and said that a new medication had been approved here where I live. It was typically used for multiple sclerosis, but it was now seeing that it was having great effects with people with ulcerative colitis. And did I want to give it a try? So I was absolutely desperate for any kind of relief. I was literally living on Imodium and Pepto-Bismol. Without them, I wouldn't have left the house.
Mm.
And um, so I said yes, of course, because I was like, desperate for help. So the medication, the risk of the side effect is that it slows your heart. So I had to go into a clinic, take the medication and be monitored every hour on the hour for 6 hours to see if my heart slowed down. And I was excited that it didn't because I'm like, I'm going to get these pills, right? Because I'm thinking this is going to help me. I just needed some kind of relief.
Mm.
So December of 2022, I started the medication. Took it all of 2023, and had a level of improvement, but it sort of got to a certain place and then never got past that. Um, so I was technically better. I was eating a vegan diet, technically better, but not right. It still wasn't right. And then I started having very strange joint pain. And it was like my joints didn't feel like they were connected inside my body. And I hurt in strange places, my wrists, my elbows, my shoulders. I've never had problems with any of those body parts. So it was very, very odd and uncomfortable. So I was away on a trip to Australia and New Zealand, and the health one showed up on my Facebook feed. And so I just started watching everything, all the videos, all the testimonials, everything I could possibly find. And I was like, okay, so this is plant-based. I know plant-based. I like plant-based. I'm fine with that. And it just seemed like I had some of the information, but I didn't have it in the right order or in the right
Mm.
structure. So
What,
yes,
so just going back, what got you to be on a plant-based diet? Like what was the reason for you to start that in the first place? Just going back a little bit, I guess.
yeah, so I have been plant-based a few times in my life and then not a few times in between. And it was actually when I first saw the videos that you were making and your story, I thought, okay, well, I haven't done the whole plant-based thing again, and it's completely opposite to what my doctors were telling me to do. And because they were telling me to eat meat and, you know, not have vegetables, which I love. So it was actually the videos, but I was doing that for almost a year before I started the program.
Yeah, right.
So
And that gave
now,
you, yeah, that gave you like a good foundation to work from, obviously, as well. Talk about, I guess, what your life is like now, and then I guess we'll backtrack on the journey a bit. But let's talk about how beautiful your life is now, and like how you're just able to live life normally, without medications, obviously, and just enjoy your life as it probably once was, and if not better than you were before
yeah.
as well.
It's true. I feel good. I have lots of energy. I work out a lot. I cycle a lot. And I can go out and do those things again. And I have no problem going out to dinner with friends and finding good, clean food to eat. And yeah, I don't have a sense of urgency anymore. I used to be always very critically aware of where the toilets were. Don't really worry about that quite so much. I can travel again. I'm traveling a lot. But yeah, I feel good. And I love fruits and vegetables, always have. So for me, it's just I'm so grateful to actually be able to eat the variety that I can. Because in the past, it just seemed like there were so many that I gave up or couldn't eat or didn't eat. But no, everything is good. I have tons of energy. I sleep well. And it is just a completely different world than I was 6 months ago and most definitely a few years ago.
Yeah,
So no,
that's
I'm in
fantastic.
a happy, happy, grateful, good place.
Yeah, and it's because you've done a lot of work on yourself as well. It's not just the diet. There's so many other aspects to life that we need to obviously cover. And I don't know if you have any tips about that, but if you want to talk about something along those lines, and in terms of spirituality or meditation or
Mm,
yoga or anything like that that you do now for yourself, and that you may have done before as well, but how have you sort of integrated those sort of aspects to your life? And also, you did change jobs during the journey
yeah.
as well. So I don't know if you want to talk about that and how that has changed your life a little bit as well.
Yeah, so all of that is a big yes. So yoga has always been, I love yoga as a practice, because you can, and one of the types of yoga that I really enjoy is yin yoga, where you hold the poses for a really long time, when your brain is screaming, get out, stop, and you just keep going. And I find that one very restorative and very therapeutic. But I do lots of other yogas too. And I find just the stretching of the body, elongating the body is so important, and it feels good. And meditation, I meditate every day, and it's just, it's not, I'm not, how would I describe it? I'm not rigid about it, or I'm like, it's not, I don't force myself to meditate. I just like to sit in gratitude or sit in peace a little bit, and it doesn't have to be really long. It could just be for a few moments, and just center myself. And I find that's a really helpful practice. But yeah, I do that a lot.
Yeah,
And sometimes it's more of a moving meditation, like even if you go out for a walk and you just really focus on your steps and the birds and the sunshine and whatever's going on around I have a lot of gratitude for that.
yeah, absolutely. It's so important that we focus on those aspects in our lives as well as the diet. It's a lifestyle change, and I think we've got to, look at those aspects as well. So, and just going on the whole spiritual journey of yours, would you say that trust would have been probably one of the most important, or faith in what you were doing, was one of the most important parts of this healing?
Yeah, 100%. I think you have to be able to trust the process, and it is going to be a process. It's not going to be the same for everybody's body. The timing isn't going to be the same. For me, adopting the diet was never really a struggle for me. Being able to eat lots of bananas and mangoes for breakfast is a happy place. I'm perfectly content with that. What was the struggle for me and where I had a bit of a dip is when I actually stopped taking the medication and my body went through a release or,
Withdrawal.
you know, a withdrawal of something. So I didn't have, there was a couple of weeks there where I wasn't doing so good. But it was like being able to, and the inclination is to take the medication again. Like it just like go take it because it'll settle it down. But it's like, no, I've got to get through this. I don't want to be on a medication that could at some point in time slow my heart. That is just terrifying. At the time, grateful that I got it. Now it's like, yeah, no, I just don't want to live tied to a medication like
Yeah,
that.
it's the reliance that you don't want, right? Like, and we,
Right.
we we don't need to rely on that. You use food as medicine instead, and that's a much
Exactly.
better option. And I think we're all, happier in that regard when we don't have to rely on something, to relieve our symptoms. And of course, with this whole idea behind healing is not about symptom relief. It's about finding the root cause and addressing that, and working our way through that. And letting the body do the healing work, which it has
Right.
obviously done at this point, and it's so amazing to see that. Um, so it's amazing that you're able to live your life freely, again, and that's what everybody wants, from this condition. And I mean, whatever digestive issue that you have, it's something that people are always looking for. And would you say that you've found like a very simple answer and solution to this condition, or any digestive issue? Would you say that this works really well? I mean, there's nothing wrong, as you said, like it's really easy to eat fruits and vegetables.
Mhm.
And would you say that that's something that really, or provided the nutrients and the I
Yeah.
guess the conditions for the healing to happen?
100%. I really think that the way the food is combined and the timing of when you eat and how you eat and what you share with us and the guidance provided, if you do that, it's like it gave my body the opportunity just to settle, like it settled down, and I could feel the changes happening little bit by little bit by little bit, and that's an amazing feeling to, and just the relief of not living with this urgency and this pain and discomfort and being woken up multiple times at nighttime, to go to the bathroom and all of that sort of thing. It's a completely different way of doing it. in terms of life, like my life is so different. But yeah, to be able to give your body the chance to heal itself by eating broccoli, I'm in. Broccoli is one of my favorite things. I can't eat enough broccoli, but and the fact that I had to go for a while in my life with no broccoli those were hard days. So, but yeah, it's you just have to trust that it's possible. And I think that's the thing for me, even, you know, uh, just that ability to really believe that if I modify the way I consume food, that I will actually be better. Because the doctors never said that. My, gastroenterologist, I said, what do I need to do with my diet? And the response was nothing. That diet doesn't make any difference. And I'm like, that can't be true. It just can't be true.
It
So
doesn't make
it's
sense, does it? That if you've got some
no,
kind of digestive disorder, then, there's got to be something that you're putting in your mouth. It's affecting how your
right.
gut works. And you've obviously seen the changes that your body's made when you eat specific foods and you allow your body to have those conditions. And I guess that sort of brings me on to the next point, which is so you already talked about your diagnosis. You talked about,
Mhm,
what the doctors were saying. You talked about how you found us in terms of watching
mhm.
our videos online.
Yeah.
I guess what was the I guess the inclination to start or to join us? Like, what was the main reason to work with us? Because obviously you knew a lot about a plant-based diet previously. You knew about all the doctors. You knew about all, Dr. Greger and Barnard and McDougall. Um, but what was it that sort of said, or what did you say to yourself about, okay, well, what do these guys have that I don't have at the moment? And I guess, yeah, share that with us if you like.
Yeah, I think part of it was your story and just how poignant your story was. Um, the transparency with which you talk about things and share things in the videos, for me was like, wow, these guys have figured something out. It just felt like you had figured something out. And the photos from when you were super sick in the hospital to, all these athletic endeavors that you're doing now. It's like, oh, okay, wait a second, something good is going on over there. And so that was really it. I just kept watching the videos and reading the posts, and I was just drawn to the fact that you were so honest about your story and so encouraging and very supportive. And um, uh, it just when I just read everything, it just felt like, okay, I'm going to give this a try. I have tried everything else. And I have spent so much money on so many different doctors and programs and everything you could possibly imagine, that I'm like, but it just felt more authentic. And I thought, well, I'm either going to get better or I'm not. So there's nothing to lose here, and potentially an awful lot to gain. But it was really the honesty and the authenticity and the poignancy of your story that, when you've lived it. And I, when I used to go to my doctor, I would say, if you lived in my body for one day, you would do something about this. You would actually help me. You would help me. And my doctor's like, yeah, I can't help you. And I'm like, no, I need you to just, and not that you would wish it on anyone,
Mm.
but if only. And so when I heard your story and saw that, that to me was, no, they have figured something out. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to go find out. And that was it. I'm just like, I'm giving this a go.
And how great that you did give it a go, and and that's why we're here, which is fantastic. Um, so during the program, obviously, there are lots of ups and downs, and I think one of the things that I was intriguing for me, and what you were able to do was go on that cruise during the program, even though you had your ups and downs. You actually started to feel a lot better, and because of feeling better, um, you decided to go on a musical cruise.
Hmm.
Um, and that was obviously the back end of the program as well. But there was still work to be done. But you wanted to go on this cruise because you're like, I've booked it and I need to go. And when you talked to me about coming back from that cruise, I think it was quite a pivotal moment in your life because you realized how grateful life can be just because you were in a place where, well, you were in your safe place. You were in a place where, I mean, I guess just, yeah, you talked to the audience about this because I think it was quite a pivotal moment in your journey because there was a lot of inspiration on that cruise. So go for it. Please talk about that.
Oh yeah, so the cruise was the story is relatively, so it was a jazz cruise. So I like jazz music. I'm not the biggest jazz fan, but I there's this jazz musician that comes here and plays every now and again, and he was hosting this cruise, and I thought, well, I'm going to give that a try. I've been on all kinds of other trips, and that sounded interesting. But the first day of the cruise is the day I resigned from my job. I was offered a job by a company that I have had as a client who I absolutely adore this organization. And they called me up and said, we have a role and we want you in it. And I'm like, let me resign. I'll be right with you. So I'm in Miami and I'm trying to get on a cruise ship and I'm writing my boss going, resigning. But and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so not classy. Like I normally would have a conversation, but I was getting on a ship, so I had to take care of it. So, so that happened like the first day of the trip. I am now resigning from a company that I've worked for 11 years. And so it actually felt great. I was like, oh, that actually feels good. A little scary, but good because of where I went. Like the company I'm with now is just, they're just amazing, amazing place to work. And my boss is vegan, and there's 4 or 5 other executives in the company who are all vegan, they're vegetarian. So I don't know how they all ended up here, but they did. So that makes lunches very easy. So but anyway, on this cruise, one of the things I loved, it was a celebrity cruise was the name of the cruise line, but they actually have all of their food labeled on the ship as to whether it's dairy free, gluten free, vegan, vegetarian. And so they list all this stuff. So every time I would go in to eat, I knew exactly what I could eat. And they had lots of just like big dishes of roasted vegetables with nothing on it, like no oil or anything. And they had a stir fry station where you just go and pick all your vegetables and they just make you stir fried vegetables and rice or noodles or whatever you wanted. So it was the most amazing thing to be on this trip surrounded by all this such amazing talented musicians and so much fun. Like the music, it was like concerts all day long every day, but I didn't have any problem eating. There was all of this great food to eat. And I didn't know that Celebrity did that, but they actually had a counter called the vegan corner. And if you went to that part of the buffet type room, it was everything in it was vegan and it changed every day and just gorgeous, gorgeous food. And, tons of fruit in the mornings, lots of great things to eat. And I did, another thing I did on that ship as well, the gym was amazing. But they had this thing called, it's like a spa, but it had a steam room, like a Hammam steam room, infrared room, and then a eucalyptus room. So I decided to give myself like a little detox just in case there's something bad hanging around in me, and go to that spa every day, and soak away whatever was there. But yeah, that trip was it totally. That trip forward has it was a critical point in my life, and pivotal in terms of my healing and this journey and everything. But it felt good to go on a really amazing trip and know that, like, from a food perspective, I was not going to be starving. There was a lot of really good, clean, within the scope of the diet food to eat. I was never hungry.
Yeah.
So it was awesome. It was awesome.
Absolutely. And because of doing a lot of groundwork and, putting yourself in a specific position, you were able to eat these foods without any problems. And you changed your environment, which is also another huge aspect to this healing. And I think if anyone can, go outside of their environment during this process, is always going to be a winner. It changes the scene. I guess you were going from a cold place to a warm place, so that helped as
Yes.
well. You got more sunshine.
Always nice.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, so it's always recommended, and I guess if you have the opportunity, then by all means do that, in accordance to how your body is feeling, obviously, and you were feeling good enough to go there, and that's why you went, and I think there was a lot of healing that happened on that ship as well, with the music and the environment and
Right?
the people,
Everything.
so that was a pretty pivotal point.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about some of the challenges that you faced during this process, and also let's talk about the medication aspect. So you initially took it because you needed to stabilize, um, and that was necessary. That was a necessary process to get to where you are now. But I guess let's talk about the medicine and what was involved with that process a little bit more in depth, and why you didn't want to continue to take that medication as well.
Yeah. So the the medication was very simple. It's one teeny tiny little pill every day. Um, I was patient number 27 here, in terms of trying it. So while that it's kind of exciting to be trying something new, it also is terrifying because it means they don't really know everything they could know about it. Um, and it is a medication that's used in other countries. It's apparently used in the UK and the US. I think it's used there too. So um, I just when I started to have these strange feelings in my joints, and my body, like my gut was working better, not perfect, like not where it really should be, but it was definitely better and manageable, in terms of lifestyle, that sort of thing. But the medication to me, it just made me a little nervous to have my body start to react and have these strange reactions, these strange feelings in my body. And I would tell the doctor about it because I was a test person, sort of thing, a guinea pig. He would be like, "Oh yeah, that's that. I wouldn't worry about that." Or I would talk about, this thing happening or my elbows hurting, and he's like, "I'm sure that's nothing." I'm like, "Yeah, my elbows. What is going on with my elbows? I've never had pain in my elbows in my entire life." And at the same time, so it was like a warning bell was going off in my head, telling me that this is not good. Like it's helped me get through the worst of it, and I'm glad for that, but not to stay on it. And I also think too, I have two family members who were on long-term medications, not this medication, but for completely other things. And it's destroyed them. Like the long-term side effects of some medications are unknown at the time when people start taking them, and they continue to take them, and then it does things to your body that can't be planned for. And so I just didn't want that to happen. I just I thought and I just kept thinking there has got to be a way for me to do this naturally. There has got to be a way for me to find a solution with food and how I live and how I eat, so that I can get off this medication. It just made me nervous.
Mm, absolutely. And I think that's when you're going into something that's unknown, you're always going to be a bit more hesitant. And I think that's when you started to understand that, hey, hang on a second, like if my symptoms are somewhat okay, I don't need to necessarily keep doing this because there was a point where you did need the stabilization, where your bowel movements were quite frequent, and symptoms were there, and then you started to recover because of the food that you were eating, and therefore that then gave you the confidence to be like, hey, well, I'm addressing this condition from one side, which is working pretty well, which is the food. And I don't necessarily see myself needing this medication anymore. And I think you made that decision to be like, all right, well, I'm fearless and I'm also confident enough to go, I think this can be left alone now. And that's
And I weaned myself off of it a little bit. I would like take it every other day and see if anything bad happened. And then I take it every 3 days and see if anything bad happened. And then every 4 days. And I was like taking it once a week. And I'm like, why am I taking it once a week? There's no reason. But I was very gentle coming off of it because again, you don't know what's going to happen.
yeah.
Um, and the doctor is I said, I'm not taking it anymore. And they're like, oh, you need to go back on it. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Like I'm good. Things are working. I'm really good. So, and I've actually had people say, well, you don't want to stay with that diet, do you? Yes, I do. Yeah, very much.
And that's because you feel so good on it,
Right.
and you feel that.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, like unless you do it, unless you know what it's like to go through this process and get to the position that you are in, you don't know any other way. You don't know any better. So I say this to a lot of people as well, that once you know where I'm at, then you
Mhm.
can be like, oh, that's what you're talking about. The feeling of being to this level where health is just there for you. It's just like,
Right.
you don't have to think about how good you feel. It's just that's what's automatic now. And like anything else that comes is like, oh, well, I don't want to feel like that. I want to feel like this. And that's why we
Right.
we maintain the food that we eat, because there's no better feeling in the world when you can go to the bathroom properly and
Right.
you have all the energy in the world and you can sleep well, and all the normal things that are supposed to be normal feel just so much better. And you don't take things for granted anymore. And this just change humbles you. So let's actually talk about I guess the withdrawal symptoms from the medication. So sometimes when we take these medications, the withdrawal symptoms are because medicine is obviously a toxic product for the body, and so it needs to cleanse out. So there was a bit of a period where you had increased symptoms after coming off it. I guess talk to us about how you felt during that process and if it made you feel anything really, I guess.
Yeah, so the bowel movements definitely became more frequent when I completely came off the medication. For about 2 weeks, I would say. The worst thing that was happening then was the actual fatigue in my body. I was so tired. Like I normally am someone that gets up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, goes out for an hour-long power walk or do a spin class or lift weights or something. I usually get out of bed and exercise right away. Uh, but I could barely move. I didn't want to get out of bed. I was exhausted and in like a fog, and which is not something I normally ever experience either, like a foggy brain. It's like I'm usually pretty quick and on the ball and have lots of positivity and energy. And it was like a malaise. I was just tired and my brain was tired. And it felt very, very strange. It was, uh, and it was, it's like I had to get through that. So what I did is I doubled down on paying attention to the diet to really make sure I wasn't having any fats or salts or anything that was extra, just super, super clean, lots of mashed potatoes. I love mashed potatoes. Just I love potatoes. All the potatoes, all of the potatoes in the world. I love all of them. So that's one of the things I did during that time is there's at the farmers market close to where I live on the weekends, there's this man who sells like 20 different kinds of potatoes. And so
Wow.
I just go buy, oh, that's new. Some potato I've never had and tried that. But I really forced myself to be super, super clean
Yep.
on the diet during that part because I felt terrible. Like that was the strangest. And again, those are things that I've not felt before. But it was like this is the meds coming out of my body. Um,
Yep.
I was like there was no other explanation for it.
Yeah, that's it. That's the body, detoxing that out of you, and that's why you got those increased symptoms. And the it was hard, but it wasn't too hard because you knew what you had to do. And that was the key aspect there, is that if you didn't know what you were doing, then it would have been a lot harder. But because obviously I was there every week to push you
Yeah.
and to keep you going, it just made things a little bit easier for you, I guess. And that's why we do what we do, right? If the guidance and support, I guess, is something that you found really useful, and I guess
Oh,
talk about
yeah.
that.
Yeah, the conversations every week, it's for me that has been such a joy as part of the program, because you can literally say anything to you, can talk about bodily functions, and when your butt's exploding and not exploding, and noises or snorts or sounds it's making, whatever it happens to be. But that freedom to be able to actually talk to someone who gets what you're describing, is it's a gift. I don't really spend a lot of time talking to my friends or even family about what's going on with my body. When I was super sick, I hid it. Like, I tried to hide it from everybody, because I just didn't know what to even do or say, or anything about that. But with you, and with your brother, it's like you can just talk. You can just say, okay, so here's what happened with my body parts this week. And there's a real freedom in there, and that's very therapeutic to actually be able to talk about it without any judgment, um, and to have the support and guidance. Well, here, try this and try that, and bring this food in, or don't eat that other food. Or So for me, that was super helpful. It's like freedom to have a real conversation about what's going on, and then backed up with, well, try these methodologies, try this approach to things. And then there were times that you and I just talked about very random things that it was like, oh, that was interesting. And it always had a purpose. Like, there was always a purpose behind it. But I always found that that part, it was really, that coaching, because it really is very much a coaching conversation, is super helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, yeah, I love doing what I do as well, because we can get to know each other a little bit more, and whatever you've gone through in the past, and a little bit more personal. Yeah, it's not just like talking about shit all day.
Right.
It's yeah,
Sometimes it is, though.
it,
Sometimes it's a big poop conversation.
it
It's
is a
all
big
right.
group conversation. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it. And we shouldn't be embarrassed to talk about it. And that's the
Right.
whole point of what we're trying to get across here, is that you shouldn't be embarrassed about your bodily function. And it's very, if you're ashamed about talking about your body, then that means you're insecure about your body. And that's because there's an underlying issue there. But when you don't have any issues, you can talk freely about yourself, and why you're proud of what your body does, because what you're putting in is coming out, and it's actually fruitful. And you know your diligence to this lifestyle as well is very important. Your consistency was really important, and I think without those aspects, you wouldn't have seen the results that you've got now. And that it's maybe it's hard for people to change at first, but how it's worth it, right? Like, I mean, a lot of people have
Oh,
said that in the past, but even if you had to do the same thing over and over again, like, you still would do it, right?
oh, there's no question.
Mm.
Absolutely. It's like giving yourself a gift, um, to allow your body to heal, and to do what your body can do. Does that mean it's easy? It doesn't mean that there's days where you really wish you had a treat. And in my case, I remember when we first talked, you asked me what was something I really wanted to eat. And I was like, a salad. I want to be able to eat a raw vegetable salad. I had not had a salad in 5 years because I was so sick, and I just couldn't digest that. It was tortured. And it's like, no, I just want lettuce and some, chopped up crunchy things in there, and to feel good afterwards. And you know, for some people, they'll listen to that and go, "You've got to be kidding me! You want to eat a salad?" No, I'm serious. I wanted a salad, and I remember the first time, you know, a few months ago now, when I was out with some friends for a brunch, and there was this salad on the menu, and I thought, well, this is the day we're going to try the salad and see how I do. Was so good, was so good. And I felt great afterwards. I didn't have any side effects or any problems. And so, you know, those sorts of things around realizing that there are things that if you're sick and you're struggling with colitis or Crohn's or anything like that, there's so much that you give up. Well, I'm not going to eat this and I'm not going to eat that. And this bothers me and that bothers me. So many things that when you actually can give yourself the gift of healing and do this process for 6 months or however long it takes for your body to get back into shape, it just means that there's somewhere along the line you're going to be able to have that thing that you really want. My thing is green, but you know, other people might have something else. But you got to give yourself that chance, and just give it a try. It's so worth it. Like it's
Well,
just so.
yeah, you're addicted to healthy food now, and that's
I
what's
am.
key.
Oh,
Yeah, and that's who wouldn't want to be in that position where they're addicted to healthy food, and you know, we all have addictions and cravings and things like that. What better way to be addicted to salad, you know? And you
I
know,
know.
I love my salads as well. You know, it's something that it's almost like one of those things where it's like the what's the word? It's like once you've ticked that off the list, you know that your body's working well. You know, it's the benchmark in terms of, especially when we have these conditions, like raw fiber from vegetables
Right?
is like a massive no-no from the doctors and from a lot of people out there. And so, you know, it doesn't matter where you could eat meat, dairy, and eggs, like try and eat a salad, you know, if you have inflammation in your gut and you ain't going to digest it very well. And
No,
so
it is torture.
that's almost like a benchmark sort of situation where you know, are you able to eat a salad or not? And does that mean that you're in a really good shape in terms of your gut health, you know? And I guess it does mean a lot of amazing things are going on down there and digesting very well when you can have no issues with it. So, you know, I would commend you and say, well done for getting to this position. Because it's not easy. Like I know a lot of people struggle with roughage and raw vegetable fibers. You know, it's certainly not something that you want to introduce early on during your healing, and you know there's a reason why. And that's it's a good achievement that you've been able to make. And you know, like I, same with me. Like I absolutely love salad, and it's actually funny, because a lot of my other clients also had the cravings of having a raw salad, and they're just like, I don't really care about anything else, but I just want a salad. You know, it's because also that when we can't get something,
Yeah.
we always want it, right?
Yeah.
So
That's, yeah. I'm not craving chocolate cake. What I want is a bowl of leafy greens.
yeah. And let's talk about chocolate actually, because wasn't that something that
Okay.
you really couldn't,
Oh, yes.
you know, not have
Yes.
in your life?
Yeah. So chocolate for me, and keep in mind, I haven't eaten dairy since I was a kid. So for me, it's always dark chocolate, without any dairy in it. So
You
I,
said something to me at the start of this program. You said
yeah,
if I can't eat chocolate or something like that, it was something along those lines. Like, how can
right.
you? Yeah, what was it?
Well, you know, me, I always had like a little bit of chocolate almost every day, because I loved it. It was like that was the treat for me, was because I can't eat most desserts or any of those sorts of things. So, you know, I never had an issue giving up cheesecake because I've never had cheesecake. So there's like all these other things that people love. I'm like, yeah, I have no idea what any of that tastes like. So that's not a problem. But for me, chocolate was the treat. And now it's like if I might have a piece of it. And the last time I did, I was like, yeah, I don't like this anymore. What happened to my chocolate? Just I just don't have the craving anymore. It's completely gone. Like tonight for dinner, I had some sweet potatoes and I'm eating these sweet potatoes, and I'm like, oh, these are taste like candy. They're so, and they're just plain roasted sweet potatoes with
Yep.
nothing on them. And it's like, okay, my tongue has changed. My taste buds have changed. Everything has changed. So yeah, I don't crave chocolate anymore. You know, I just and I'll walk past the bars I used to buy in the store, and I'll be like, oh, look, it's right there. It's like, yeah, I don't want it.
How amazing is that, right? Like it was a food that you would have thought that you would never give up. And
Right.
now it's not that you don't give it up. It's just that you don't feel like eating it anymore because you're nourishing your body with a lot of, good simple sugars and, coming from fruits that you don't have this craving. And not that dark chocolate is sweet, but it's also the stimulation that you don't need, because yeah, you feel so good that you don't need to rely on the chocolate to give you that good feeling. And that's generally why people eat certain foods. It's an emotional way of saying, oh, I want that treat because I've done something good, or whatever it is. You feel good. There's an emotion attached to that food, and therefore we eat it. And I think what you've done is you've emotionally attached yourself to healthy foods because you feel so good. And that's a far better way of looking at life than, emotionally attaching yourself to unhealthy food or junk food, processed foods. And, what better way to live a life where you're treating your body like a temple and you're providing your body with nourishment, to feel good all the time. And I guess, the old, when we get older, we don't want to be in a situation where we can't walk or we have to be in a wheelchair. And that's the main reason why I eat what I eat right now and why I teach eating this way, is because it's for longevity. It's for getting to a position when I'm 70, 80 years old and I'm not struggling to walk, and we see populations eating very much a plant-based diet, very, very high plant exclusive diet, a lot of fiber from plants as well. And they're living to 100 and still being able to do a lot of things, and that's where we want to be. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that's how you see yourself going forward as well, but like there's no way that I feel like doing certain things that are going to put my body in a worse position. Like I don't have that inclination, and maybe there will be times where I feel like some kind of junk food, but it's very, very little, and it's just like a spur of the moment thing more than like I want to do that more often than not. And I don't know if you see your life the same way, but
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I definitely want to live as long as I possibly can. There are places to go and people to see and things to do, and I intend to be as healthy as possible. I come from a family that has a lot of health issues, lots of them, on both sides of my family, and I'm bound and determined to avoid as many of them as possible. A lot of heart disease and um, obesity and all sorts of things. So eating a whole foods plant-based diet, those things are not going to happen to me because it's just actually not possible.
mm,
So that won't be happening. But yeah, I want to stay as active as I possibly can. I have a group of friends that I spend a lot of time with, and they're all very active. And so we love that, like, to be able to go places and do things and is so important. But yeah, and I love watching the shows and the studies on the blue zones, those parts of the world where people live for a really long time, and it is plant-based. Like most of the folks are, it is pure vegan or vegetarian, whatever version it is for them. But it really does make a huge difference in how your body works and how your brain functions, and to keep all of that healthy, I think is critical. So the diet, the socialization, the keeping learning, to be a continuous learner in life is, and even if that is about your diet and how your body's working, but to stay curious, I think is a really important thing. And and eat your broccoli, lots of.
you said it right there, and I mean, it's just a given now that you live this way. I don't think it's hard for you anymore. It's easy actually. In fact, it's easier for you to eat this way now because it's just so simple. You don't have to cook that much. It's time consuming, like not time saving. You can actually do the things that you'd like outside of the food that you eat much more. And the food makes you go and do stuff. It's not the other way around where you exercise, then you go and eat something. It's like you eat this food, makes you go and exercise because it's like the
Right.
fuel, it's the right fuel for the body. And that's why I do so much exercise as well, because it just keeps us going. It doesn't stop. We don't stop. So I'm glad that you also experiencing that a way of life and that the energy and the feeling that you get from eating these foods because I feel the same, and this is exactly what I want for you guys that whoever's listening as well, like all of these testimonials, people are not like they're 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 saying this to you because it works and it's working so well that they want to be able to say this stuff. And if I can do it, you can do it too. And that's the message that comes across in these testimonials. And I guess you found them quite helpful as well, and that's why I guess you wanted to do one yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I found them very inspiring, all the different people, the different athletes that were on, and all these different folks at different ages and stages of life, and just that confidence of like, you can do this, you can actually do this for yourself. You just have to make the decision and to stick with it, and to stick with it on the rough days, because um, it will be hard. There will be hard days. That's just kind of the way the body works in this process. But that ability to do this for you and to be so empowered that it lies in your hands, that ability to help your body heal. You don't need the doctors, and you don't need the medications and all that kind of stuff. I mean, yes, there are times where you might, like I did, to get over the worst of it, to just to kickstart something. But long term, no, I'd prefer to never see my gastroenterologist again in my life. Not that there's anything wrong with the person, but just, I don't really want to go down that road again if I don't have to. And
no,
if
that's
that
right.
means broccoli and bananas and mangoes, I'm in.
Why not? Yeah. And I guess I was just wanted to say that, like, from all the testimonials that you did listen to, it's like now you know what they're talking about, right? Like this is
Totally.
it. Like and this is what
Yeah.
you're suggesting the same sort of thing, and that's why it's so lovely. So on that point,
Yes.
what advice would you give to someone that is watching this? Like what would be your tips and tricks? What would be some of the things that you would have done differently, I guess, if anything? I guess,
Mhm.
everything happens for a specific reason, but if you were to tweak anything, if you were to, yeah, I mean, what advice would you give?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, two of the things that were the hardest for me to remove from my diet were fats and like olive oil. I like to just name it olive oil. I love it. And so I actually gave my olive oil away to a friend of mine who also loves olive oil. So I removed it from my house. That was the only way I was going to stop olive oil, was to not actually have it in my home anymore, which sounds dramatic, but it is what I did. She was very happy because olive oil is ridiculously expensive now.
Yes.
So it was a gift. That was hard. And for me, I also have naturally low blood pressure. So I tend to need salt a little more. I don't eat the white table salt, like the iodized salt. I tend to like salt with the Himalayan pink stuff that has other things in it. But getting rid of salt was also very challenging for me. So so that was harder. To not, and it was a gradual process to not sprinkle it on things, and just to let the vegetables cook. Maybe a little bit of salt in the water, but then to try and move away from that. So for me, the salt was hardest. And that was a very gradual process. And I gave myself permission for that because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't getting dizzy or woozy or anything from the more of the natural low blood pressure, but that it didn't happen. I didn't really have any incidents like that. So those two things were hard. So there might be things, if I were to give as a tip, that you struggle more with the diet. And so find a way around that and start to build a new small habit, little bit by little bit, whatever that might be. You know, if you're not a big potato person, or maybe you don't like sweet potatoes, try and find a squash or a pumpkin or something that's still in that same kind of family until you find the foods that you actually do like the flavors of. You know, it's not going to be the same for everyone, but I think you have to give yourself permission to find those things through the process. And there's going to be things that you try. Some of the recipes you'll love, and other ones you're like, yeah, no, I'm never eating that again in my life. That's okay. The lemon potatoes are particularly yummy. So things like that, like just give yourself time to find the flavors that really work for you, because your taste buds are going to change. Things that I absolutely loved in the past, I now really don't like the taste of at all anymore. So it's a process, and just give yourself that permission to figure out what's going to work for you.
Yeah, and yeah, wise words. And I guess when someone's going through the healing aspect as well, do you have any tips or tricks, or I mean, advice on that part of their journey?
Yeah, so the healing process, uh, so so, so one of the, you know, your body is going to be your body, and I really think you have to celebrate the small wins. So you know that day when, and this will, it's, you know, well, it's a poop talk. We'll talk about that. That day when you actually like pass gas or you have a big fart, and your body doesn't explode afterwards, and you're just like, oh, I just farted, and nothing bad is happening. It sounds so simple, but it's so true to go, oh, this is a good moment. This feels great. Because in the past, that was not what was happening. It was like torture, right? And as the small improvements happen, celebrate them. You know, and it might sound strange to celebrate your poop, but do it. The small improvements just tells your body and your brain that good things are happening here. So I think we have to find those celebrations. If you know, any little thing like that. If you sleep through the night one night and you're like, wow, I didn't get up last night. Oh, it's amazing. You know, like those things just reinforce what's possible. And to remind yourself of that, even if you do have some bumpy days in there. And the other thing I think is really important is to surround yourself with positive people. Surround yourself with people who get it and who support you. If that's at all possible. You know, I have friends who will say things like, "Oh, that's Carol. She has a strange diet." Yeah, it's called vegetables. You know, or people want you to come over for dinner and they're like, yeah, I don't know how to cook vegan. Well, you could just take some broccoli and put it in a pot next to the pot of potatoes, and I'm perfectly happy. That you don't have to do anything, right? So I think surrounding yourself with really healthy people that support you is critical, if that's at all within the realm of things to do. Those things are good just for your soul, you know, to reinforce that and to have the conversations with you every week, those coaching conversations, and unburden if there's something that is really bothering you or you're having a tough time. And those things are just important. Those coaching conversations are crucial and critical and fun and helpful. So,
Fantastic. Yeah. And gratitude, is probably one of the most
huge.
amazing, like influential things for me, that really taught me a lesson about just appreciating everything that happens with your body. And like you said, the small wins add up to big wins. And that's why you're here today, because you use that same method, and that uh, has brought you to this point, and how wonderful that you worked hard to get here, and you really trusted fully in yourself and what you were doing, and there's irrefutable science and backing what this way of life is, and that just puts another layer of trust to the process. And how wonderful is it that you've been able to take control of your health, and you don't have to rely on doctors, you don't have to rely on medicine. So, Carol, you now have a life after colitis, even if it was microscopic or whatever. But yeah,
Whatever.
you're in a really good position. I am so happy for you. And here's another person that's been able to take control of their health, and so proud of how hard you've worked and put yourself in this position to get here. So well done.
Thank you very much. I will miss our weekly chats. I may just phone someday and check in and see how you're doing.
Absolutely. That's it's always going to be, you're always welcome to do that, and keep going and keep eating loads of potatoes and bananas and mix them in with all sorts of other fruits and vegetables, and enjoy your life from here. You've got a beautiful opportunity to take this a lot further, and extend your life as much as you can. Eat all those beautiful antioxidant, colorful rainbow foods that have all those polyphenols that allow our bodies to function in the best way they can. So, well done again. And yeah, thanks for coming on and sharing your story. It's probably going to help a lot of people out there that, you were in the same position, watching all those other people on the testimonials. So, you know how it
I hope it
feels.
does.
Yeah,
Yeah, I hope it. Thank you so much, though. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you.
you too. And you're welcome. And yeah, all the best with everything.